Recording has started now. Okay, Councillor Baz, we're live.
Thank you. Good evening to everybody. Thank you for joining the Yardley West and Stechford ward meeting this evening. And on this ward meeting, basically, we're going to discuss the ward plan and look at ideas and put ideas together and out for the next 12 months. So we want to work on a ward plan that's going to work for the ward, and we want to look at issues that basically affect the ward and how we can work together as one community to put this together. So Beverly, is there anything that we can start off with, or have we had any suggestions?
Good evening. Oh, Pat, do you want to you want to pick this up? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's meeting. As Councillor Baz said, what we are going to be doing is looking at just running through some priorities, really, the key priorities for the ward, things that, for the next 12 months or so, that can be achieved. So really, it's over to you, residents, for your ideas, thoughts, suggestions. We have had a couple of things in, I think, that's from the neighbourhood forum. But if you're not members of the neighbourhood forum, then perhaps you might have your own thoughts and suggestions as to what what we should be, what you'd like to see as your priority. But I think it would be a good idea as well if we let you know what we've had so far, because some of these, some of the suggestions might be things that you're thinking of anyway. So if we can share that, if we can share those thoughts that we've had so far, that's a good starting point, Councillor Baz, I think.
Yes, I think that would be, because then we won't have to repeat on anything else, so we can see what people are putting already, and then we can see if we can work on them ideas.
Sorry, Councillor Baz, have you got the template there that we can actually put on the screen? Has anybody got it in hand?
No, I haven't got the.
Rev, I'm trying to get I'm trying to share it at the moment. I don't know what's happening with the connection, but I'm trying currently to share the what we've received from Stechford Village Neighbourhood Forum.
I've got nothing on my screen. Oh, hold on. Can anybody see anything? Oh, yes, we've got it now. Yeah. We've got it now. Residents, are you there?
We're here.
Yeah. Can you actually see that? Oh, that Pat.
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, Pat, we're good to go.
Right, I'm hoping that Nadeem is on the call. If Nadeem, this has come from Stechford Village Neighbourhood Forum, and I'll just slowly go through them. You can read, hopefully you can read it. One of their priorities is around clean air and the environment, and what they feel needs to be done is planting trees and floral embellishments and protecting conservation in terms of park and open green spaces within B33, and you'll see where it says where they've put the whole of Yardley West, and by whom they've named themselves as one of the partners, residents, BCC parks, the councils, and BCC inclusive growth, and by when now till the financial year finishes in 2022, and they've listed the stakeholders. I don't know if any watching the call at the moment would like to make any comments on that. Would they want to add to what has already been put as clean air and environment?
Yeah, so I think there's quite a movement going on, and recently we had the litter pick on the Oaklands Park, and sort of it's the litter picking and the clean environment is really essential right across the ward. So I think it can probably, in terms of other providers, there are other groups available, and it just means we need a joined up approach, so that so if everybody helps out, it'll be so much, we'll get so much more done.
Andy, can I just ask, is this a regular clean-up or was it a one-off?
So a regular cleanup has now started, and sort of it's been it's been spearheaded by Fran at Acox Green, but all the way from Acox Green now right through to Stechford, there are regular cleanups from different groups being organised. So it'd be really good to join that up and make so that everybody's not competing for rubbish, literally, that we're all joined up and we all do different bits, and we're all aware of where the cleanups need to happen. I think that'd be fantastic, really.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anyone else got any comments they'd want to put in at this point?
Yeah, Pat, can I come in?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, disregarding the cleanup side, we've actually, myself and Councillor Zaka Chowdhury from Site Yardley and Fran Smith, we've set up a Facebook page, Site Yardley Litter Champions, and basically we've had a big cleanup at the Oaklands at the start of May, and we've got another one planned at the end of May as well. And then, moving forward, we've got other areas where we've identified where it's kind of a bit of a hotspot for litter, right? So we're going to be tackling them, and it's all like community led. So
yeah, so that's what I was on about, really, Baz. It was a great day, wasn't it, out on the park at the Oaklands, and it's just making sure that the South Yardley litter, that Facebook page is really effective. I think it's got 40 members now.
that's right. Well, the last time I checked, it was some 120 plus. So, it's growing, and the more the word gets out, right, it's creating a positive effect in Site Yardley, right? That residents are actually wanting to get involved as well. And I could say the same about Stechford. We've got a cleanup sometime, I think, on the 12th of June, and that's been organised by the Stechford Village Neighbourhood Forum. So we are actually actively getting picks arranged. As like with the COVID situation, we're limited in what we can do, but hopefully with the lockdown easing, we'll be doing more litter picks across the board.
Yeah, so just looking at that sheet, I think it needs to be the by who needs to be, and the stakeholders needs to be broadened, because there's lots more people interested than just the Stechford Village Neighbourhood Forum.
Well, can I suggest, Andy, that at the end of this meeting, I will send you a similar template, and you can fill in additional information should you wish to do so, and then send that back to myself and Councillor Baz. Is that okay?
Yeah, brilliant.
I was going to say, is it worth sending? Should we send it out to everybody? So at least then everybody's got a copy.
Yes, if I send it to you, Bev, then you can send it via.
Yeah, I'll send it
Catherine and
out.
Sandra are probably better placed to fill it in than I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, if I send it out to everybody on the mailing list, at least then you can see what's been suggested, and then you can add your comments to it, because at least then it's a starting point, isn't it? Is that okay with you, Councillor Baz? Because it's your meeting, actually.
Yeah, that's fine. We're happy.
Yeah.
Okay. To do that.
Okay. I'll move on to the next priority that was provided by Stechford Village Neighbourhood Forum. Under community safety, as you can see, antisocial behaviour, community safety, respond to crime and reassurance. And one of what the group feels is there needs to be installation of cameras in designated areas to prevent fly tipping, graffiti and general antisocial behaviour, more visible police on the streets in designated area to prevent fly tipping, graffiti and general antisocial behaviour. On this, again, if Nadine was on the call, if there were specific areas that we name those specific areas in the priority. Again, the neighbourhood police team should be contributing to that priority. Also, probably the setting up of some neighbourhood watch schemes, should that be, or business watch in certain areas. But again, to be a bit more
so
specific.
I know street watch is being set up.
Okay.
So that needs to go on, and then I think we just need to keep, to reduce the antisocial behaviour, we need positive outcomes for young people.
Yeah.
So we need to see some development at the Vibe when COVID allows, but we also, so it's like young people's activities and working positively with young people, I think needs to go on there.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'll move down to priority 3, affordable social housing. Focus on rejecting unsuitable planning applications, HMOs, exempt accommodation providers. And that's, I know that's a big, tall order, and there's work going on throughout the city, through the city, in terms of HMOs.
I think this is particularly important for Yardley, where there's some very large HMOs sprung up and are in the throes of being built and opened up. But I don't think there's any affordable housing in those applications. And there's two. The great big. There's at the Swan. There's the great big. What used to be the office block that's being turned into a massive HMO, and then the other side, the Coventry Road. It's more in South Yardley ward, to be honest, but it's going to affect us all if there's like massive HMOs going to gentrify the area and totally change the area. I'm really concerned about it pushing local residents out, and so I don't know who the developers are, but it's the housing crisis in Yardley is absolutely massive, and all the there's a load of temporary accommodation, and all the local budget hotels are all full of people in temporary accommodation, and it's an absolute disaster, to be honest.
Okay, I've noted some of your comments. Again, when the template's sent out, Andy, you can add a bit more narrative to that. That's great. Thank you very much.
But it probably needs to work in conjunction with South Yardley Law Ward, because that's where most of that issue is located. I think in Stechford, Yardley and West, I think the HMOs are quite small, but maybe Baz knows more than I do.
Okay.
We have more of an issue with HMOs in Stechford than we do in Yardley. So
yeah, in your ward, I think South Yardley ward is full of HMOs in Yardley, and then they are over Stechford Way, aren't they?
Okay, if I go on to priority 4, which is around community cohesion, and I hope people can read this. Stechford Village, community cohesion, empty commercial buildings, property asset transfer for community use, help required to ensure that the important parts of the social fabric, such as pubs, sport clubs, theatres, post office buildings, can continue to play a central role in Stechford Village. This links in with the UK government's levelling up agenda, helping to support recovery and building opportunities with funding weighted towards places where community asset can make the most difference.
Yeah, I mean, I just think once again you've got to bear in mind that this is for the whole ward
Yeah.
and not just for Stechford village.
Mhm.
You know, it's applicable to all parts of the ward, really. I don't disagree with any of it, but I think if there's a total focus on Stechford village, the rest of the ward councillor is going to lose out, and they're not really going to want to support you if you only do things for Stechford village.
Andy, we're open to ideas from both sides of the ward. So that's why we're having this
Yeah,
meeting, right?
yeah.
And have
I think
ideas
it's
from the
really
Yardley side.
important. I mean, I think they're great ideas, and it does, you know, community cohesion is equally important across the ward as it is in Stechford village.
I think we need to have it across the whole of the ward, because obviously with the way COVID's gone and we've got people going in, you know, in lockdown and everything else. I think what we need to do is try and bring people together from across the wards to see what different activities are there. And also, I know we're focusing on looking at, you know, younger people, but I also think we need to be probably looking at older people as well, so that they're not left behind and they've got somewhere where they can focus on and meet people and just get to know what's going on within the area. So I think we need to start looking at how do we start connecting people across the wards with different activities from different groups and again, just bringing people together.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, can I just jump in there? You took the words right out of my mouth, actually. I was about to say, you know, this is a ward plan for the whole of Yardley West and Stechford. It's not just for part of the ward, it's for the whole ward. So like you say, it's important to make sure that that we are focusing on the whole ward and not just a particular part of the ward.
Priority 5 is around inconsiderate parking. Focus required on irregular, inconsiderate parking in and around places of worship in Stechford B33, Yardley West. So to ensure enforcement actions can be taken, traffic calming measures and parking restriction notice to be strategically placed in and around residential roads in the vicinity of places of worship.
Can I also say that we also need to be looking at the schools that are around the area as well, because I know certainly from outside our school, I think what we need to look at is what can we do in terms of calming measures for people zooming down Wash Lane. You know, I've seen outside some schools where they've got those little bollards on the pavement that look like children. And obviously that would then focus the people's minds on, you know, it's somewhere to be safe. But again, it's also about making sure that we've got the crossing person there as well. But I do think we either need to have something like speed ramps or whatever, because I think people are just driving way too fast and are inconsiderate when you've got children trying to cross between, you know, two bollards in the middle of the road and there's a bus that's just parked there. It's like, well, where do the people go? And some people aren't patient enough to wait for the bus to move off. And the tendency would be to overtake, but then you're putting children at risk and you're putting other passengers at risk as well. So I think that's something that definitely needs to be looked at across, certainly outside any schools within the area.
Thank you. I mean, I think we should, you know, as I said, you know, Stechford Village Neighbourhood Forum has made a stab at this, and obviously this is invoking quite a conversation. So I'd like to personally thank them for getting the ball rolling, really, and for you for contributing as you do. If we move on to priority 6, it's around street cleaning. Focus required on street cleaning and maintenance of verges. Again, that should be for the whole ward. If there are, you know, we talked about community cleanup and litter picking and working with the schools. This could be something that could be a bit more specific and more targeted if you think that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think, well, some of these priorities we can actually roll out across both sides of the ward, so it's like street cleaning. Yes, it's happening in Stechford and it's happening in Yardley, so we don't have many verges in Stechford, but what we do, we can actually maintain them. So, and just going back to the Wash Lane comment about speeding, there is something in the pipeline that I'm hoping to speak to the local engineer, but it's not set in stone, so we can't really give out much information, but there is stuff happening, hopefully.
Yeah, okay.
And that is the 6 priorities that the Neighbourhood Forum came up with. I'll now stop sharing the screen and go back to a general conversation for this.
I think I would say from another priority is really looking at young people activities and older people activities as well. Because if you think about it, people are coming out of COVID, they're probably not in the best of mental health, the best of physical health. So it's addressing, you know, what we can do to actually help those both old and young as well.
Okay, thank you.
That's something we are looking at, because we've got the fields on Yardley Fields Road, and we've got a meeting this week with the officers, and we're looking at ways of putting stuff in place. Make that feel more community friendly, really.
Is there any more comments or those on the call would like to make?
Just generally, it needs to serve the whole world, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole ward needs to be consulted, and you know, you can't just consult on one little bit of the ward.
I think what we've got at the moment is yourselves on the call, Andy,
yeah, I am worried that it's ourselves and it's not.
Yeah, I was going to say the ward plan is a working document. So it's not to exclude people, but it's a start. And then obviously when more people get to see the plan and the priorities, the more people will add to it. As I said, the Stechford Neighbourhood Forum made a start, and obviously your comments this evening has contributed to that, because you all got different ideas and priorities, and including, because they hadn't written things around young people and older people about mental health and well-being, and so that can be thrown into the priorities and make up the ward plan. It is a working document that will change once we've succeeded in one area. We'll look at focusing on another area as well, and priorities.
Yes, generally, I agree with everything that's in it, really, but it just needs to go across the ward, is, you know, what I'd say.
And it's also just about making sure that everybody, whichever part of the ward they're from, I mean, if it is about accessing to services and whatever, we've got a collective bit of information that goes out to everybody, so that we all get the same information. We all can all feed into, as you're saying, what we're doing now, so that it's not sort of, and not that it's meant to be, but it's not pitched that one person's doing this bit and this person's doing that bit and this part of the city. It's just making sure that we've all got the vested interest of everybody that's within both the ward as it is.
What I would say to everybody as well, when I actually send the template out after the meeting, if you can also share it with your contacts, so at least it's, like I say, it's going far and wide. And I think what we probably need to do as well is to put a cut-off time on it, or a deadline date, so that, you know, it's not going on forevermore. So so once I send it out to you all, if you can make sure that you send it far and wide to your contacts in the ward, and what have you, because I won't have those details.
Sorry, Bev, I put my hand up to actually say what you've just said. We will put a cut-off probably in about a week and a half's time to get it round. As I said, it's just a start, so there will be a time limit in terms of getting the first response back when we send the email out with the template.
Yeah, I think a couple of weeks would be good to get it done. You know, we could certainly put it out across the ward.
Yeah, I was going to say, I suppose, you know, the end of May, because that's Whitsun week, isn't it? So that's a couple of weeks away or thereabouts. Is that sort of?
Yeah, that sounds okay, I think, because if we can put something out to the residents and then we can see if they want to add to it, and then we can always, you know, at a later date, if something's working, then we can always look to chop and change our priorities as well. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you know, Stechford Neighbourhood Forum done a great job there, and
yeah,
you know, it's a great start. It just needs widening out.
Okay, I think Nadeem has got his hand up. You want to come in?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, hello, Councillor Baz. Sorry, I'm late. I just joined late. I was just doing something else, and I had to. I was taken away, but I've only just kind of picked up a little bit, and I just heard Andy mention the village forum. So, as Pat will know, I did share with you, Councillor, the priorities that the Stechford Village Neighbourhood Forum would like to incorporate into the ward. I mean, I shared those with you in advance of our village forum meeting on Thursday. And I don't know what people think about them, if you, Councillor, if you've had sight of them, if you had a chance to read them. But I think that those priorities pretty much are what many wards across Birmingham and the people and the residents of Birmingham kind of really focus on, which, I mean, amongst other things, protecting our green spaces, making sure, you know, that there's, you know, more bobbies on the beat, you know, protecting or looking after areas of particular interest, conservation, and things of that nature, things that really matter to people now in this, what we call this post-COVID world that we're now living in. And I just wanted to kind of think, well, I hope that what I've shared with you, Councillor, is kind of the first of, I think, further consultations that we can have. Because from all accounts, I mean, speaking to you and Councillor Eustace at Thursday's meeting, ward plans are not concrete, they're not set in stone, so they are fluid, they can change, and are flexible and adaptable to kind of ever-changing needs, etc. So, you know, as restrictions begin to lift, and listening to Boris today, you know, in terms of the announcement is made, you know, there's going to be different needs at different times, and and all I'm really doing is what I've done in terms of the village forum is just harvested what I feel are the most important things that I'm hearing in my email inbox from residents: parking considerations, issues, you know, just making sure that the general upkeep of the area is kind of maintained. Now, if that's things like litter picking, ensuring that our environment is being looked at, you know, for example, and I think I put this in a priority, not just noise abatement, but we're talking about air pollution. Now, I know in Ties in Hay Mills that there's fantastic work going on that side. For example, if you look at the work that Bano's doing, you know, planting trees and I mean, these are the things that different communities and different organizations can do in different pockets. The way I think we can do maybe further discussions down the road is taking a very kind of a pan approach and kind of linking up different organizations, whether it's litter picks or otherwise. But as I said, it's a starting point for a conversation. But I'll kind of stop there because I appreciate that you probably haven't covered off a lot of stuff. So, and I'm appreciative. I'm joining midway through. So
sorry, I was going to say, Nadeem, we'd actually gone through. We've actually used your.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, so you came in, we'd finished doing the presentation, and there's been a healthy discussion and
great. That's great.
some addition will be added. But we'd like to thank you for making the start, really.
Thank you, Pat.
And the comments that you've made have been shared on the screen, so people have seen what the Neighbourhood Forum have put forward as their 6 priorities, and it was purely from yourself. So that has been shared, and what's we will be doing after this meeting is sending out the template to a wider field for people to also make a contribution.
That's superb.
Make comments as to what they see are their priorities. So some of your priorities could fit under one priority. If we were talking about environment, green spaces, so it's about merging that. But we're going to give residents and stakeholders and partners a time limit to get that back to us. So the next ward meeting for Yardley West and Stechford will bring them together for sharing. If not for that meeting, they can be sent out before the meeting so people can have a look at them. So we're looking at the end of May.
I agree, Pat. I think that there's wider kind of thinking, and I'm kind of using first of all, thank you for that, Pat. It was really helpful to know what was discussed, and I'm glad that those things are being picked up. I think there's a wider approach, I think, as well, that we can kind of think about, not so much to discuss here, is that we know that the NNS model, the steering group that's set out, so they have priorities in each ward, and how we align and what we do as an asset, because we all consider ourselves as assets, utilizing the skills and experiences that we have, sharing those skills and experiences across the board. So yeah, that's really that's what I was kind of thinking about when I put those priorities together. But I still feel that much of what I've raised in terms of priorities are very universal themes. A lot of people are thinking about that at the minute, and whether you're based in Four Oaks or Yardley or whichever part of Birmingham you're from. These are themes that people are thinking about. Housing, the lack of social housing, for example, in areas. There's so many ills, and I know all ward priorities can't cover everything, but I just thought, well, it's good to start from somewhere, right? I always think so. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Nadeem, thank you for your priorities. I believe these can be implemented across Yardley as well. So, but like they said, we should give residents more of a chance to see what they want in the priorities, and then we can work in our next ward meeting, to actually put something set in stone and work towards them for the next 12 months or so.
Yeah, I agree.
Councillor, it's over to you. I don't know if you want to give those listening an update as to what's been happening in Yardley West in terms of the work that you've been doing or other groups that have been doing. This is a kind of a show and tell, really. People want to show and tell.
Okay, well, literally, we had the big cleanup at the Oaklands that was organised by the South Yardley Litter Champions, and we had at least 45 people attend, and that was Yardley's biggest cleanup to date. And now we've got another cleanup on the 29th of May at the Oaklands again. So we're hoping for a good turnout. And in between that, we've got another cleanup on the 15th of May. That's going to be on the Coventry Road from the Swan roundabout up to Liddell's, and then going back up to the Gilberston Island, and then coming back around. But that's more inside Yardley. But if anybody wants to participate in that, they're more than welcome to. We've got the road resurfacing being carried out, which they've started today on Millhouse Road. And those that have travelled up and down Millhouse Road will know how bad it was. So thankfully, they've actually started the work, and it's going to be ongoing now for the next 3 weeks. And once that's done, Wash Lane is down to be resurfaced as well, but there's no date set. Stony Lane is down to be resurfaced as well, but there's no date set as yet. And we've also pushing for work to be done in Stechford. Littleton Road's been mentioned, Station Road's been mentioned, but as of yet, there's no date. So we're going to be pushing, hopefully, to get some work done on these roads, because some of these roads are actually starting to fall apart. Wash Lane is pretty bad at the moment as well. So that's going to be taken up with the highways, hopefully, to ask them to get this road done as a priority for us. And we've got road minor measures money being allocated, which ain't a lot, but from the last conversation I've had with the engineer, right, was that we've been allocated £10,000. Looking at
Can't hear you.
Sorry, I think the reception was a bit bad. We're going to be looking at ward minor measures, right, where residents have asked over the last 12 months where they think we should be spending that money. So we're going to sit down with them. And one of the main concerns has been Wash Lane with the speeding. So I've asked for the engineer to have a look at what we can actually implement there. But then there's other issues on Kestrel Avenue. There's something in Stechford as well that we're going to be looking at. But because we've only got £10,000, that's not going to really stretch, to get everything done. But we're going to obviously prioritize where we think that money is going to be best spent. So that's going to be taken. Sorry.
Can I just jump in there? I was going to say, Councillor Baz, with your highways money, is there anything that could be in the ward plan that could also be considered? So if residents had got something in the ward plan as one of their priorities, is it something that that could be considered as well when you're sitting down with the engineers? Because again, that could be a way of sort of meeting. Because at the end of the day, we look at the priorities and stuff.
Priorities, well, literally with the ward plan, right? With the highways money that we've got for the minor measures, we're looking at probably speeding, how to tackle speeding. But it's going to be, because of the amount of money that we've got, right? It's not going to really cover any a large amount. Because I asked for Wash Lane and he said, well, if we were to do anything on Wash Lane, that's the whole budget on a Wash Lane. So I said, we need to sit down and we need to look at what residents have asked for, and then we can work to see what needs to be catered for first, really.
I think from my point of view, and I understand that for Wash Lane, but what we don't want to do is we don't want to wait for an accident to happen. And we know that people are parking inconsiderately there, children and mothers in the morning trying to cross to get their kids to school. We don't want an accident to happen there. So I just think that if there's got to be some other things that we can do to sort of try and prevent that from happening, whether we use cameras to monitor the speeding that goes up and down there, or what. There's got to be some things that we can together as a community can try and do to try and make a start and gather more information.
No, there is, because Starbank School and at their site on Bayton Road, they've actually got some measures that they want to put in place to cater for around their school for safety measures. So that is something that hopefully should control a bit of the traffic further down Wash Lane. But my concern is once the cars come off the roundabout from Wash Lane, they basically it's a straight run. And we have had about 4 or 5 accidents in the last 6 to 9 months up there, right? So before we actually have a fatality, we rather, be seen to be doing something. And hopefully, once we have this meeting, we'll be in a better position where we can actually announce that we are actually going to be doing some work up there. Okay, Nadim, you got your hand up?
Yeah, Councillor Bass, thank you for that. I was just inquiring. We know because you mentioned Station Road, and I have been speaking to Councillor Eustace about some remedial work around the main high street. But I'm mindful of the fact that where you've got it's the Shell Garage right at the bottom, where you've got that kind of Stonehenge kind of roundabout now on Station Road at the bottom. We know that there's been a recent fatality there. We know that there's been a lot of the Iron Road Junction area, I think you want to call it. There has been a fatality there, and that's before the roadworks were even completed. Now, do we know exactly in terms of, you know, we don't know what caused the fatality, but we know that it was, you know, a hit and run. But is there ongoing works to ensure that this type of thing doesn't happen? Because this happened before the roadworks were completed. You know, safe, you know, like health and safety, that there's not enough road markings or something. I'm just very concerned with that, because that should never have been allowed to happen down there. It was a travesty.
No, you're right. But where the fatality actually happened, right, that comes under Tile Cross, Glebe and Tile Cross ward, right? So, but it
No, it doesn't.
links...
Councillor Baz, it doesn't. That is technically within the Stechford boundary now.
No, but where, because basically my boundary is up to the train station.
Okay, yours is, yes, yours, yeah.
Mine is right. So anything further down going towards the Iron Lane roundabout, right, that comes into a different boundary, and I believe Neil actually finishes off on the Manor Road as well. So anything further past that point comes into Glebe and Tile Cross.
Yeah, yes, I think you might be right. I mean, for example, we deliver right opposite where the Shell petrol station, the Shell garage is. You've got that new development of housing. So, for example, in recent times in the Village Forum, we were kind of delivering newsletters around there. So there is that crossover. Yes, I do agree. But I think the wider point being is where you've got these new types of road developments going on, a lot of thought has to go into kind of road, regardless of which ward it's in. And I do accept, I think the speaker just before myself, I think it was Sandra who was talking about that. I think it was, you're absolutely right. I think careful consideration needs to go into these types of things. And I think if we can use this as a forum to at least raise concerns, I think that's useful, because we don't want to be in a situation where we're just reading terrible news stories, you know, of something that could have been avoided.
You have to think about the pedestrians and how they're going to get from one side of the road to the other, and thought needs to be done. That you've got elderly people, you've got women with children. You just need to be thinking about the pedestrian more so now. I think it's we just don't want it. We just don't want another fatality anyway.
Okay, what I'll do is outside of this meeting, I'll email the two neighbouring wards of Glebe Farm and Tile Cross and Yardley East, and we'll see what we can come up to as collectively, and see if we can put any measures or ask for any measures to be put in place to stop any further fatalities from happening.
I mean, I think that whole estate, you know, Wash Lane, and all up in that part of the ward. I mean, I think it should all be a 20 zone myself, but and it can't cost that much to put in some 20. You know, I know they have to study like the impact of making it a 20 zone, but you know, and definitely outside Hobmore and along the Hobmore Road and all up towards the Balsley Green Road, in between the two. You know, it really needs to be a 20 zone.
It's a speed run.
You know, it does need to be an enforced 20 zone. So I don't know how many signs would cost, but
Andy, you'd be surprised how much signs actually cost.
Yeah, no, I don't think I would. But I think, you know, even if we could have a plan, put in the ward plan, maybe that we may between Hobmore Road and Balsley Green Road, you know, a 20 zone, and even if we can do a little bit of it now, you know, then when some more money comes along, you do the next few roads or whatever, you know, and even like Church Road and down into Stechford. I mean, all those roads around there need to be a 20 zone. They really do.
I understand, but Andy, when my budget's only £10,000, and to think I had 2 signs put up on Kestrel Avenue, like in a short distance, right, and they actually cost £3,000 we put in.
Yeah, I understand that.
So,
it's
10
about
times-
having a longer term view, I think.
Yeah, Councillor Baz, I was going to say, going forward, this could be something that, for ward plans post 2022. This could be something that you could be working on with, with your colleagues in Glebe Farm and Tarcross and Yardley East, because again, they will probably have those, similar concerns. So, there's nothing to stop that being in the ward plan partnership working with your neighbouring wards, post 2022. So that's
Even
something
if
as well.
target date of 2025.
Yeah, because it's not going away, is it? The problem's not going to go away.
Mm.
And I think people are people. I know they want immediate action, but sometimes you need a long-term view for some things as well, which doesn't go amiss.
No, that's something I agree. Ideally, the next 12 months, right, we should be looking at ideas that we can actually implement in the next 12 months, right? There's going to be some, right, that might not take longer than 12 months, but at least the ideas are there, right? And then after May 22, we can work collectively with our neighbouring wards and, say, okay,
and it doesn't, in the future, it doesn't hurt to be able to say, look, when I was councillor, I had this put into the residents wanted it in the ward plan. And we couldn't afford it all at once, and obviously residents were disappointed we couldn't. But we really want to achieve that by the next whenever.
And also as well, Councillor Baz, the district engineer that we've got that you're working with will also be working with the Tarcross and Glebe Farm and also Yardley East. So you've got the same officer. So again, it's having those conversations, isn't it, really, with the officer and with neighbouring councillors. But like I said, that's something that could go into the ward plan for consideration and discussion.
No, that's fine, because I'm having a meeting with him in a couple of weeks' time, and I'll put this on the table to him that this is one of the concerns that we have actually had in one of our ward meetings.
And immediately we need 20 zones outside the schools, because other schools have got 20 zones outside them. So why hasn't the schools? Because there's going to be an accident. There really is. You go up Washwood Heath Road and there's 20 zones everywhere. Most schools in Birmingham now are a 20 zone.
And I think you'd get community buy-in from everybody to support that around the areas anyway. So it's a quick win to get everybody together and to be on board with it. So
Pat's just put a comment in the meeting chat, everyone, and it's about the inclusive growth strategy, because again, they're looking at the whole of Mark Gamble and his team. They're looking at the whole of the east corridor. So again, this might be something that might already be considered or by the inclusive growth strategy team. So again, there are other players here that you could sort of tap into or link up with as well.
No, I mean, if it's already been thought of, we need to know. We need to know the dates that it's going to be done by.
Yeah. But I think again, with that strategy covering that side, there's probably there's a lot in it that might help with some of the issues, some of the priorities that's raised by residents, for this particular ward. So it might be worth it. I mean, I don't know whether anybody's seen the East Birmingham strategy.
I've got it in my hand.
There you go.
You know, it's for me, it's my bedtime reading every day. I have regular meetings.
That's a bit sad. That is.
No, I know. I'm a bit of a saddo. What it is, I have regular meetings, weekly practically meetings with James Carlos, and we often talk about what you've just spoke about. You know, the urban regeneration of the East Birmingham in particular, the areas that we represent. Now, I've always felt, and I've said this to James, I've seen this East Birmingham probably needs a refresh. It's a very abstract document. And what I mean by that is it talks the talk. And I know in many cases, like the Future Parks Accelerate, you know, that's a 25-year project. Now, projects and programs typically which are future orientated suggest that there is going to be an end goal. What I'd like to see more, and I've said this to James, I think, you know, we need to get better communication. What is the fine detail within the strategy? It's time to kind of take the big picture stuff from this strategy document and say, right, this is what it's going to mean in B33 such and such. This is what it's going to mean in such and such an area. This is what it will mean in terms of traffic calming measures. I think somebody needs to be very detailed and specific, because as I said, every time I look at this document, as I said, it's in my hand and I'm flicking through it now, it's fantastic to read. But what it doesn't really do yet, maybe this is where the refresh of this document needs to come into force, is what it then will be doing, because it says funding status, funded. How long will it take to deliver? 2 to 5 years, 0 to 5 years. All the way along, it talks about this kind of stuff, but it doesn't go into any further detail. And then that kind of makes me think, what next? So yeah, that's a little bit my concern in regards to that. Yeah, there you go.
Councillor Baz, over to you.
Councillor Baz, you're on mute.
Sorry. No, it's a good suggestion that in the next meeting we can actually look to invite the officers to see if we can get a more clear idea of what they have planned for the east of Birmingham, and they can also look at our suggestions as well and take them away.
Good idea.
I mean, if for example, Councillor Baz, you know that James Carlos was at our meeting last Thursday, and what I've always kind of been keen to do, and I have been really kind of been doing this ever since I came in as chair of the Village Forum, is to kind of align our activities and projects and align them very deliberately and purposefully to the strategy document. And that's to ensure that there's no deviation. So when I get a green light to say, well, actually, Nadeem, that what you're thinking about there fits perfectly with the strategy, that means we as a community organisation are moving in the right direction. So it's kind of almost weaving together what all the other kind of, whether it's Oasis, Hopmore, whether it's Village Forum or other community groups, it's kind of weaving this together to this strategy document. But I also feel that much of what we do is interlinked to the NNS priorities. And it's interesting that the NNS have a steering group meeting, I think, is it next week or the week after, which is going to unlock a lot more of the kind of the strategic aspect of what we're doing. So having these meetings is great. And I think if it means that there could be match funding, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud here. So if the council have got, say, well, look, we're limited to our budget, we've got 10 grand. Well, okay, inclusive growth strategy, we've got this. Can you unlock some of your funds to kind of allow us to do all this stuff? But I guess that's a conversation, isn't it? That needs to happen. So yeah, I agree with you, councillor. Maybe that kind of needs to be developed further. But my feeling is that James and others are very keen to open that dialogue now. So whilst we're in this space and there's kind of that harmonious consensus kind of discussion going on, and it's not, I have to confess, I like the approach that the council are taking at the minute. Historically, in the past, I've always felt community groups and the council are kind of doing things at loggerheads, and that, you know, it kind of gets communications a bit prickly. But now I've understood it to be much more harmonious. That's a good thing. I think that's a good thing.
And that's something I definitely agree with, because as you're aware, with the fields and Yardley Fields, right, we used to, over the last 2-3 years, where we've always said we want to put ideas in place for the fields, but then the officers were on one side and we were on the other side, and you know, we were having difficulty actually coming together. But now that, you know, in the last couple of weeks where we've actually arranged this meeting with the officers and we've got all the relevant stakeholders around the table on Wednesday, and you know, this is when I believe we're going to be taking that big first step in developing that area. And you know, this is an idea that we can implement across the whole ward. Like,
I agree.
now, so hopefully for the next, like Beverly, for the next ward meeting, if you can invite the local engineer and anybody from the East Strategy as well, like to listen to what we have, to see what they can.
Can also get the neighbourhood network scheme as well, because like you know, if they're involved, and Nadine was also you know, all the key players really, because again, you know, if you're looking at the ward plan and the priorities, you know, a lot, you know, some of their issues are probably very similar to, you know, the idea is anyway, I suppose, with the scheme, they are supposed to be looking at the ward as a whole. So again, there's lots of things going on there that could help with developing the ward, you know, doing the ward plan, you know, for the next, you know, 4 years or so. But and again, it should be with the ward plan, it should be everybody, you know, should really ideally should have input from everybody, or certainly all your key stakeholders and your residents as well. It shouldn't just be a one-sided document, because again, housing, you know, will have an input. The police have got their priorities as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, if everybody's sort of pulling in the same direction, you know, everybody's dealing with the same residents, but we've just got 10 different organisations working
doing the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
working with the rest. Absolutely.
Bev, I'm just looking at the document that was sent out in advance of the next NNS steering meet. Looking at this very briefly, overall NNS priorities, which is what we're talking about. 1, increasing social participation. 2, healthier lifestyles. 3, maximised income. 4, housing which supports independence. Yardley specific priorities in bold. They put this in bold. Yardley specific priorities. This is what we're talking about here now. Mental health, learning disabilities, social network scheme, you know, participation for Asian women, volunteering and participation, transport scheme. But what was very specific in bold and black and white, it says Yardley specific priorities. So that suggests to me that we can really think about how we now, at this very early juncture, can start bringing all of these kind of the people with skill set and kind of not doing things independently, because the power of community forums is that when we all come together, which we do oftentimes, like now, we can bring our insights, and then we can say, right, okay, this is how transformation happens. Now, when the government of the day, Boris Johnson and others, they're talking about this levelling up agenda. Levelling up meaning let's move everything out not from London, but kind of say, right, we've been ignoring the other major cities for long enough. Whether it's the, you know, now that we've got Andy Street re-elected as the mayor, this is the perfect time, you know, to kind of re-engineer how we see transformation in our local areas. I don't think if there's been a better time, not that I can recall. So I think it's positive. And I think there's so much more that we can do. And I think what you just said is so right. Linking all these other agency-specific organisations, even if it's just the key people, and just or if there isn't somebody, for example, Councillor Baz, are you on the NNS steering group?
No, I'm not.
So you see, it's interesting that Marge Bridle sits on that. There's other councillors in and around the area that sit on that steering group.
Nadine, can I just grant it? Some of the members are invited. It could be top heavy in terms of many councillors, so there'll be invitations going out to key councillors in some places.
Okay.
Because of people's diaries, so it's not that Councillor Baz is excluded. It's just that, you know, if the board only has space for 3 or 2 elected members. In East Birmingham, then there's more than 2 or 3 elected members. So it's you know.
No, I agree. It's okay, and I agree with it. I mean, it's just that if they record the minutes, and as long as those minutes then go out, even if people can't attend, and say, right, okay, I've got the minutes of that meeting. It's a transcript of what was discussed, and if anything, then that Councillor Baz feels, well, actually, I note that in the minutes. Maybe I can pick that up with somebody who's taking up an action point, or there's a subcommittee going on. Do you know what I mean? It just means that it's just the interlinking of stuff. But I agree with you, Pat. I mean, I understand that meetings can't have an unlimited number of people, etc., and that's down to them. But I think with these ward priorities, I understand that there's only a finite. It comes back to the same point. There's a finite amount of resources, money, essentially, and not everything can be done that everybody wants to get done. So what then becomes the priority? Well, these are questions that we're trying to kind of get to the bottom of now, I guess. But but I'm very keen, in the soonest possible timescales, I'll be honest, is to be able to say, right, at what point, noting that the cutoff point for the Commonwealth Games funding is the first round is June, is it 1st of June? No, I'm very keen to think, are we able to get an application in or complete an application? That's what I'd like to know.
I'm not sure you want me to answer that. That's down to Councillor Baz. You know as well as others that there are 2 rounds. There's one for June, and then there's another round, I think, in September. Realistically, if you're saying that you're for and wish to put in a submission, you can do that, even though there isn't a ward plan at the moment. Officers are looking at a kind of a proviso in that instance, but again, the conversation needs to be had with your elected members for the respective wards where the funding is being applied for.
Well, I think it's important as well to remember, everybody, that it's the same pot of money. So if it's not as though if you didn't apply in June, you'd lose any money. That all rolls forward, so that the money is still available. In when's the next round, Pat? Is it October or something?
It's around that time, yes.
Yeah. So the money's still there. So it's not as though it's applying now or you lose it. The money's is still there. So I think that's quite important for everybody to remember.
No, I agree and I understand that there are limitations on things. I don't disagree with that. But I'm mindful of the fact that now more than ever, voluntary association, getting access to funding and to do projects and very difficult when money comes in. It goes very quickly, and then you're kind of scratching around to get the next pot of money, if that makes sense. And what would be good for me to know, even if it was just a ballpark, would be to know or establish exactly what amount or figure amount we could apply for. But I guess that's for a further discussion. I accept that, but I mean, it's worth having at least it's worth broaching the subject, right, at this meeting.
That's right. Nadeem, what I would say is that I would encourage any community groups to actually put their proposal forward, regardless of whether we've got a ward plan in place or not, right? Yeah. Is because the quicker we do it, right, then we can see what we've got left, and we can see what other groups want or ideas, so we can work on. And also there is, from what I did gather at one of the meetings, right, was that if a ward has actually spent all their money and another ward has any money left over that they can't spend, then that we can actually apply for that money as well. So
right.
If that's an opportunity for us to spend our money and then look to use somebody else's ward money that they haven't spent, then I'm all for putting the bids in to get that extra money. If it's going to benefit the residents of my ward, then why not?
Yeah, no, I like the fact that what Bev said is that, which is provide me some clarity, is that even if you don't apply in June, it's not to say that you can't apply in October. It's not to say the funds are going to be kind of given and then taken away, which is good. That's good. That's good to hear. As I said, there's always things emerging as we speak, and there's more updates. But if it were down to me, and if you're giving the green light to be able to make those applications, then I will certainly be submitting an application both to you, Councillor Baz, and on the other side of Stechford, both in terms of Councillor Eustace's patch. Yeah.
Nadeem, I can only speak for myself. Obviously, I'm happy to give you the green light to go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's superb. Yeah, that's great news.
The same to Andy as well. And if you want to put anything together, please do so. And collectively, you know, we can work on, look at what's going to benefit the residents most, really. So.
Yeah. I've got a few things to put in.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else that anybody wants to raise? So far, what I will is just to recap, I'll send the template out that we've had from Stechford Village Forum. I'll send that out to everybody. Again, you know, we'll just say, so can you circulate this, you know, to your contacts, have a look, add anything that you want to add, and then we'll give a cut-off date as well. That'll be included in the body of the email. And then we'll come back together again once we've got all the submissions, and we can agree what the key ones are that we want to take forward just for the time being, and then the rest obviously can go into the bigger plan post 2022. Is that okay with everyone?
That's good. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Baz, it's your meeting, so what do you think?
Listen, I'm
sorry. I've got my bossy head on again.
No, that's fine. No, I'm happy with the idea, right? That I believe, like, okay, you know, like there was like 6 points raised earlier, but ideally, I believe we should be looking at 3 or 4 that we can actually, you know, work towards in the next 12 months, right? And anything more than that, right? Then we, you know, post May 22, we can look at after, right? And say, okay, these are the plans that we've got for the next 3-4 years going forward. So it's something, you know, it's definitely something to work on.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan then. I'll do that.
Okay, and shall we move on to any other business? If there's anything ward related that anybody wants to raise with me that I can take away and come back to you with. No, doesn't look like anybody.
No, Councillor Baz.
Now it looks like. Okay. Are we happy to end this meeting then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to thank everybody for joining the Yardley Western Stechford ward meeting. It's been we've had a lot of information and discussed and ideas, and hopefully there's a lot of stuff, positive stuff happening in Yardley West and Stechford. And, you know, I believe that we are truly blessed that we've got a good community groups working across the ward, and, you know, working with these community groups, right, we can only grow on the good work that they're already doing. So please, we're going to set a date for the next meeting. I believe it's going to be sometime in June now. We'll put a date.
Yeah. I think what we need to do, once we get all the submissions back from everyone, we can, you know, we'll look at the date then, and I'll get the details out to everybody. But again, yeah, we are looking at June. I should say about the 1st or 2nd week in June, if that's okay with everyone.
That works. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
again, it's you know, we're still doing stuff online, doing online meetings. So just so everybody's aware that, you know, we are still doing the online meetings until we've been told otherwise. So yes. So again, it'll be this format, and we can have another run through and agree the way forward.
That's right. And outside of this meeting, then we can discuss who, if anybody, we're going to invite, because I think we could do with the local engineer attending.
Yeah, we'll have a discussion, Council, and also we can get Mark Gamble and or James, someone from the team, and also someone from the NNS and we'll try and get the police to come along as well. So at least we've got some of the key stakeholders. Again, if their priorities, mirror what residents are really concerned about.
Can I ask a very quick question before everyone goes? Thanks for that info. But any news on when you're likely to have these meetings face to face again now that restrictions are being lifted?
No, we haven't had any information at all. I think we just don't know. So I think the next couple of meetings, I should imagine, are going to be in this format, but also as well, post restrictions and everything else as well. This is still a format that we've got. So we could always, should we get to the stage where we are back at doing face-to-face meetings. We can also still use this as well. So, it's not that you've got to go back to face-to-face and we'll never go online again. You can use both. So, it's a tool that we've got now. It's here to stay.
Yeah, true.
So it's something that, just to, bear that in mind. It might work. Face-to-face works for some wards.
Yeah.
Online meetings work for others, depending on what the circumstance and the situation is, so it's just keeping that in mind. We can use both eventually.
Yeah, I'm all zoomed out, Bev. This is the thing. I'm all Microsoft.
I know. Well, I know. Well, we know that feeling, and I suppose as well with us, because we're all working. We've all been thrown out of our offices, so it is a challenge. Having
true.
to sort of make space at home to sort of do your job. But and it's the same for everybody. It's not just us. So yes, but it's just worth bearing in mind because I suppose in the cold and the winter months and things like that, an online meeting might suit lots of people really.
No, I agree. That's a good point. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Baz, anything else before I stop the recording, or should I?
No, that's it. Well, I was just going to say, if there's nothing else, we can end this meeting. And I just want to thank everybody for attending. And I look forward to you all joining me at my next ward meeting, whenever that is, sometime in June. So thank you. Please continue to stay safe, and we'll see you all at our next ward meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.